Hey, welcome to our weekly 3-minute therapy podcast. With me, I'm Dr. Michael Edelstein, a clinical psychologist, and my co-host, Mick Berry, and we both specialize in REBT, Rational Emotive Behavior Therapy, which is a form of therapy devised by Albert Ellis in the 1950s. And Dr. Ellis has written over 80 books, and that's Rational Emotive Behavior Therapy, REBT, which says that it's never situations that cause our emotions and behaviors, but rather it's our thinking about situations. And when you have disturbed emotions like anxiety, stress, anger, guilt, or procrastination, it comes from what we call irrational thinking, demands, musts, shoulds, supposed tos, and have tos. And the three main demands are, I must do well and get approval, or else I'm no good. Others must treat me well. And if they don't, they're no good. And my life must be fair, easy, and hassle-free. And if it's not, then my life is no good. So look for your must, look for your demand, look for your should. That's causing your emotional problems. And then question, challenge, and contradict those demands, as we show you how to do in these podcasts. Mick, did you want to add anything to the introduction?
Nope, sounds good to me.
Okay, and today we're going to be discussing REBT and intuition. So let me start with a definition of intuition. It's always good to define what you're talking about. And intuition, one definition of intuition is it's the ability to make a decision without conscious reasoning. In other words, you make decisions and you don't consciously think about it. Of course, you think about it, but you're not quite aware of it because you make decisions on a split second. So you're often not aware of what you're thinking. And some of the demands, musts and shoulds, that tend to block intuition is I must have an immediate solution to the problem, and then you get anxious, and then it's hard to relax and allow yourself to just think about things. And I must avoid the hard work involved in research and trial and error to find a good solution. So again, that tends to cause anxiety. Or I must prove I'm an intuitive person, and again, as usual, your must block more rational thinking. Mick, did you want to add anything to that?
Well, I'm just a little confused. So you're not eschewing intuition per se, right?
Right. Yes. Relying on intuition to make a decision is often reasonable, especially when it's based on past experience, knowledge, trial and error behavior. So intuition is often useful, and we often live our lives to a large extent on intuition about what to do next. So you make a good point. I'm not saying there's anything wrong necessarily with using your intuition. Yeah, Mick?
Well, I don't see that as intuition if you're basing it on past experience or information. That's an informed decision. I don't see that as intuition. I see intuition as, oh, I've got a hunch, I'm going to go with this, with just my idea, not based on anything that I can necessarily pinpoint. I've just got this idea, I'm going to make this decision because of this idea I have. That's what I consider intuition.
Yeah, and I understand that. And I think that intuition could be based on past experience, um, but you're not consciously aware of what you're thinking. So those are two different views of intuition.
Yeah, well, that makes sense. Just what I was thinking on this topic, I think REBT would encourage intuition, but then discourage it when there is proof otherwise. In other words, if I have an intuition that I can uh, cash this check and then I will have enough money in my bank account to write another check. Uh, okay, fine. But if there's something to indicate that that's not the case, and even if I'm believing that, then REBT would encourage somebody to question their belief. Or I think REBT would say about intuition that it might be right, but then again, it might not be. So if you cannot find anything to dispute the intuitive idea, then go ahead with it. But it's if it under scrutiny it falls apart, then don't go with your intuition. Go with the firmer idea or the firmer viewpoint.
Yeah, I think that's a good perspective on that. And I don't have anything else to add to that discussion. Do you, Mick?
Oh, yeah, a great deal. I think a lot of times when people are depressed or anxious or angry or rageful, they're going with their intuition. In other words, I'm no good. I'm awful because I made a mistake. How do I know that? Well, I just know it. Now, REBT would say, no, that's not good. You're not basing this on any factual information. You're basing it on your feeling, and feelings are often incorrect. And a lot of people I see consider their intuition or their feelings to be superior to anything else. And REBT, I believe, tell me if I'm wrong, but REBT, I believe, would say your feelings are important, but your assessment of your feelings is more important. So if you've got something you want to do or decide to do based on your feelings or just a thought, it's good to evaluate it and see if that's a good idea to do. And if you are depressed or emotionally upset, there is something you're thinking that is causing you to be that way. It doesn't just happen. And your automatic thoughts, which people often consider their intuition, can be grotesquely wrong and incredibly self-defeating. So REBT would not say your intuition trumps all. It would say your intuition could be valid when all else is not known, but be careful because your intuition can be self-defeating.
And Mick, would you agree that although you said feelings are often incorrect, I think what you meant was the thoughts behind the feelings are often
Yeah.
incorrect.
Yeah, thank you for correcting me on that. Yeah, because feelings are never correct or incorrect. Feelings are simply something we have. The thoughts that cause the feelings are incorrect. And by saying that, I think what I meant, I can't go back in time and question myself here, but I think what I meant is that our feelings are self-defeating and our feelings are not based in reality. So in that sense, our feelings are incorrect. Our feelings are not based in reality. They are based on unrealistic thinking.
Yeah, right.
Yeah, the good thing, I tell myself this often, the good thing about being a human being, and REBT emphasizes this, is that if our thoughts are realistic, we will not be depressed. Tell me if you think I'm wrong, but I don't think I am. If our thoughts are realistic, if our ideas are based in reality with hard and fast facts to support them, we will not become depressed, we will not become anxious, and we will not become angry or rageful, at least currently. It is always possible in the future to start having unrealistic thoughts, and then we will become depressed. But if our thoughts are realistic, we will steer clear of ill mental health.
Yeah, and the reason for that is uh, if our thoughts are based on demands, musts, and shoulds, that's not realistic because all musts are fictions. There's nothing that must happen just because you want it to happen. You don't run the universe, you don't control things. So whatever happens, happens. And you could say, in a sense, therefore must happen. But but it's always based on reality. Yeah.
And one thing I've found very, very helpful for myself, it is possible for me to say, well, I don't have to land this job. Nothing in the universe says I have to land this job. However, behind that is often a lack of self acceptance or a lack of accepting the world and the circumstances that would happen if I don't get the job. So I tell myself, even if what I want doesn't work out, I can still accept the world. Not only does it not have to happen, but I still have the choice to accept my life, and I still have the choice to accept myself, and nothing can ever take that away from me short of brain damage.
Yeah, right. And I would add to that that there's nothing that happens that you wish didn't happen that you can't stand. You could stand whatever happens, whether you like it or not. And also, there's nothing that happens, even if you don't like it, that's awful, terrible, or horrible. So there are various angles on musts and shoulds that we've been discussing, such as I can't stand it and it's awful. Mick?
And I would add to that, not only can you stand it, you will be standing it. No matter what happens, you will be standing it. What REBT encourages semantic precision. What do we mean by standing it? Well, when I have told myself I can't stand it, I am thinking, oh, all I'm capable of doing is rolling up in a ball and crying on a bed for hours incessantly. Well, that's ridiculous. I'm not going to do that. And so I not only can I stand it, I am going to stand it no matter what I do. Now, the question is, how am I going to feel while I am standing it? And if I tell myself, oh, I'm going to stand this, already I feel better. I'm not panicking. The thought I can't stand something is unrealistic. And it's much more helpful to remember I'm going to stand this no matter what. I might not like it. I want to do everything I can do to change it. And another thing that people get confused with REBT does not advocate resignation when a situation is changeable. It advocates accepting that the situation can exist. Because when people are saying, I can't stand it, this must not happen, they are going so far as to say this situation absolutely must not exist. But REBT would say, no, this situation can exist. And as I heard Albert Ellis himself once say, once you say it can exist, then you are in a position to see what you can do to change it.
Right. Yeah. And my intuition is that we've said a lot for people to digest about this subject. And so, although we could say more, probably it would be reasonable to conclude now. So, I'd like to thank Chris Rossini, our tech engineer, for holding it all together. And comment below if you have thoughts, if you have questions, give us a thumbs up and a like. Suggest subjects for future podcasts. Volunteer if you'd like to come on and talk with us. And if you're struggling with emotional or behavioral problems, we'll cure you. And if you're a therapist who is struggling with a client, we'll give you some suggestions. And what's your intuition that people do to subscribe on 3 Minute Therapy podcast, Mick?
To stay, it's not intuition, to stay on the rational side of life.